before that, I actually worked in New York with press and communications at the Swedish mission to the UN. And even before that, I was working with digital communication at Save the Children here in Sweden. So I've worked pretty much all my life in, with organizations. But this is actually the first kind of like political step I've taken. So when it comes to creating content and scheduling for social media, I usually always say that it's really important to plan your communication. So if you want to succeed with your communication, you need to know what you want to communicate and to whom. So you need to first look at what's happening in our organization during this year. What do we want to talk about? And you have to plan that, because the most common mistake is that people usually focus on specific things that happen at specific times rather than thinking about the overall picture. And then you miss the bigger picture, and you miss the chance of actually creating this story for your organization. So how we work here is that we look at it at a macro level, first of all, and we look at what's happening in our organization during this year, what are the key issues that we're going to focus on, and what's happening outside our organization. So I have each year we do like this communications plan where we pinpoint everything that's going on during the year, and I actually color code everything. So I have like these purple things. This is what's happening outside our communication, outside our organization. And then we have what's happening in our organization. And then if we have like specific campaigns, I just mark them red. So when you have all this sorted out, then you know like what's happening and how can I combine it. So this year we're actually focusing on talking about equality. So everything we communicate, everything we talk about, we try to connect it to equality in some way on a bigger level. But then when we have all this macro level planning and a communications plan, then we go to the next step, and that's a micro level. This is actually a micro level plan for next week. This is for one specific event. It's a political week. It's this annual thing where all the political parties in Sweden meet up at the same place for 1 week, and then they all get each day and they talk about their main issues. So that week we made a content calendar for everything we're going to do in social media. And as you can see, we have, I made a plan between 7 a.m. and until 10 p.m. And I've divided it in SSI. This is our organization. This is the president of our organization. And then we have Andrea. She is the Secretary General for our organization. So we actually create and schedule content for 3 different accounts, or 3 different people, so to speak. And we focus on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we have everything planned so that if we as an organization are talking about something on social media, it has to sync with what Philip and Andrea are talking about. So I actually plan every day and like every hour of the day what we're going to say. And everything we're saying, we're connected it to the different topics that they're going to talk about. And this is foreign policy, this is healthcare, it's going to be about school issues, it's going to be different kinds of things. But we keep in mind that we have to connect everything to an equality perspective. So this is just a really good way of doing it. And what we always have to keep in mind is that we have to keep the audience engaged with storytelling, because with the growth of social media, this storytelling approach, it's really critical to building a brand. It's basically like the concept of the survival of the fittest. That's basically a pretty accurate way of explaining how social media works today, because we can't just push out our message and it is broadcasted on TV or radio and then people just take part of it, because the audience decides what's popular.
Sorry, Simon, just I will interrupt you for a second. Alta, can you mute your microphone? I think that we have from your side some noises, background noise are coming. Just mute your microphone and it will be much better. Thank you very much, and sorry, Yasmina. Please continue.
Okay, so we always have to keep in mind that the audience are, well, they're the judges of what's good content and what's not good. So if they're not engaged and it's not interesting enough for them, they're just going to keep scrolling down to something else. So that's why we have to talk to our audience like we talk to people. Whenever we talk to people in our personal lives, we do it by telling stories. Like if I'm going to tell someone about a trip I made, I tell them, oh, I took this flight, it was really fun. And then I made it to Spain and I did this and that. I don't tell them like the flight number. I don't just present facts. I tell a story. That's how we talk to each other. So that's how we need to address our target audience in the same way. We have to keep in mind that we're not businesses connecting with consumers. We're just people connecting with other people. We're telling them about our political views. We're telling them how we want to change the society for the better. We're telling them how they can get engaged in and involved in our movement. So we really have to take our communication to a personal level. And this is basically how you talk to people, or how you write a movie or anything. You have a beginning, you have the middle, and you have an end. And that's, we as storytellers, that's what we have to tell our audience. We have to explain the beginning, the middle, and the end for them. So during this specific week that I was talking about, the political week that we have coming up here, we're going to talk about healthcare. That's on a micro level. But on a macro level, it's an equal healthcare. So we're connecting that to equality. So what we did is that we, a couple of weeks ahead, just started talking about healthcare overall. So we did content for our webpage, so that we have, if people Google us and they come to our page, they're going to see that we're talking about equal healthcare. We posted a lot of posts on Facebook. We have a bunch of articles, opinion pieces out. We use Twitter and Instagram to talk about this, just to kind of like build up something. And we're presenting the problems with the healthcare in Sweden today. So we're telling a story about how the healthcare situation in Sweden is not okay, and we need to do something. And then we have the middle, where we actually pinpoint and like who's responsible, who can actually do something about it.
Oh, Evie, I please just mute your microphone. Yeah, thank you very much.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, of course, please continue.
Yeah. So then we started talking about, after we presented all the problems, then we started talking about who's responsible, and then we kind of ended it with, well, this is our solution. This is how it should be handled. This is how it should be done. But I think that that's like our external communication, and it's really important that we tell our story like that. But also, like, when we're done with it, when we're done talking about this topic, it's really important to still engage your audience. Like, the conversation is not over. So you have to tell them like what happened with our campaign. Did we actually change something? Are we going to continue with this? Are we not going to continue? Are we done now? So it's like a constant two-way communication. And that's what's really important to know about social media, is that it's not like a website where you just post things and people can read it and that's it. Social media is open and the audience can actually ask you questions about it. So on all these posts, we got a bunch of questions, like specific questions. What is our opinion on healthcare in one particular city or region, or why, if the Social Democrats are already in charge there, why isn't it better, and stuff like that. So you have to be prepared that whatever you tell in your story, people can actually question that. So you need to be prepared. You need to know what you're talking about, and you also have to listen. As I showed you before, we plan our communication in January, usually in the beginning of the year. So we plan our communication, what are we going to talk about and what's happening in the world, how can we spin it so it works for us. But it happens all the time that even if we have something planned out, something can happen, something can occur in the world, or just that people aren't that interested in what we had planned. So we have to adjust. And I think that's really important when you create and schedule content for your social media, to always keep in mind that the audience are the judges of what's good and what's not good. So you have to adjust for what they want to hear. What do they want to talk about? And keep in mind that I can still talk about my main topic, even if the audience doesn't want to hear about it exactly in the way that I had planned before. So if people didn't want to hear about a specific thing that we posted on Twitter, we have to find another way to still talk about equality, because that is our main thing that we want to talk about during the year. So that's just a little bit about how we work. I'm just wondering, do you guys have any questions, or should I just... How do you want to continue? I don't know how you do this.
Yeah, we can do the Q&A session at the end, okay?
Okay. So what I want to do now is actually show you guys HootSuite. So this is how I plan our social media communication. So we have all different kinds of streams here. So I can follow like what we post, what messages we get, all the activity that's going on. And we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. And then I also have our organization's president, his Facebook page, his Twitter. And then we have these streams where I just kind of just bunked up all our competitors. So I can easily see what they're doing on Twitter. I can see what they're doing on Instagram. I can see what they're doing on Facebook. Just to keep in mind, like, because you have to listen. You always have to listen what's going on. So I can't just focus on my questions. I have to see what other people are talking about and how the public is responding to their politics and what's going on. So, and this is like the dashboard where you can see everything. Then we have the publisher, and this is where I can schedule posts for different platforms, really, because I can schedule posts for Twitter, I can schedule it for Facebook, I can schedule it for Instagram. So this is really a really good tool, actually, to plan your work and so you don't have to like tweet instantly when something happens. You can, I usually prepare everything. You have drafts, you can schedule it, you can make posts, because we're 3 or 4 people working with this, so you can make posts that need approval So if someone else is new at it, they're not sure, they can just like request an approval. So our communications manager can approve the post if it's going to come out or not. And then this is like the best tool here, the analytics part, because we can see what's going on. We can see demographics, likes by demographic, reach by demographic. We can see if the posts are working, if they're delivering as we expected it, or if it's not that good. It's sometimes if we post something and we usually think like, okay, the length of it, it's going to be like 3 days. It's going to be out for 3 days. So the first day we just post it, and then the second day I go in, I check like, okay, are there enough comments? Are there enough shares? Should I like edit the text? We usually have, if I go in, I'm sorry, my internet is not the best here. So we have like on our page, this is today's article, or no, this is last week's article. We work with a headline and then like a smaller text describing what it is. But we've seen that headlines are much, much better. That's what works. So when we schedule things, we just try to get headlines that are current, that are related to what's happening in the world, that are engaging, and we basically optimize it as we go. So there's no like right way. We create something we think is going to work, and then we kind of have to see if it works or not, or do we have to change anything or not. So this is one tool. I know there are more tools, but this is like the one we're using right now because it's the best. Then Facebook has its own scheduling tool, so you can schedule posts there. But I think that this one is better because I can schedule for different types. Like I can schedule for our organization, I can schedule for our president or secretary general, and I can do it over all channels. So I can be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So it's easier to get like an overview. I think I can, before I show anything else, I think I'm ready for a Q&A, and then I can show things that you're interested in instead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We can do, as always, Q&A by messaging in order to prevent any background noise.
Okay.
Yeah, and please, this was very, very interesting presentation. I really didn't know about it's HootSuite?
HootSuite, yeah.
HootSuite, aha. Is it free or is it paid?
Well, there are different versions. You can use the free version, and then you can add all your accounts and you can publish, but you don't get the analytics part. That you have to pay for.
Okay. This is the second very interesting tool that I find out about today. The first is Salesforce, which I didn't really. Maybe it's a shame because the guy told me it's quite famous around that I didn't know about, but I saw and I was really impressed. So please, all of you who are with us on this Skype, you can ask Yasmina whatever you want about what you just heard, or something that you are interested in related social media, related to digital communication, to internet, or whatever. So, like for the first webinar, we had really a lot of questions. So maybe it was really unbelievable to have so many questions. But like maybe you want to repeat some of that question that you had then, and maybe you didn't get the answer, or some other questions. Really, whatever you want, what's related to this topic, you can ask.
Well, while you guys think about your questions, I can just give you another tip, and it's that don't be afraid to talk to other organizations or other political parties, or like engage in something together. Or if you have like, we're a youth league, so we have our like main political parties, the Swedish Social Democrats, and I actually use them a lot. I just emailed their communications manager, and I'm like, oh, okay, we got this thing coming. Is it going to work for you that we publish it this week, or do you want it next week? Like, how can you help us out? And how? So it's really important to think about the reach. Like, how can you reach more people? We also have a group on Facebook for our members, where like members in the organization. So we have like 900 people in this group, and these are members that are active digitally. So every time we have something and we want it to go viral, or we just want to reach more people, we write in that group and we send the link, and we're like, okay, so this is what's happening, please help us. Like, if we want them to share it, if we want them to comment on it, or it can be whatever. So really just talk to other people. It's usually a good thing.
So before I can see that TV is typing his question, but like, is it tough? Is it a really tough task to build a community around the organization?
Yeah, it is. It really is, because people are so private these days. Like, they don't want organizations, they don't want businesses, they don't want anything in their streams online.
Oh, really?
People don't. Yeah, I mean, people don't want. They don't want sponsored commercials or anything. It's just so. That's why it's so important to have engaging content that people are actually gonna like.
Yeah, we have questions from. So Yasmina, sorry, it's all about content, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, just before getting to Evie, my organization run a very interesting crowdfunding campaign these days, and what we learned, our lesson learned from this campaign is that it's all about content, it's all about community, so
Yeah.
and if you want to have a community, you should have a good content to create this community around the organization. So, and this is I guess a long-term effort. It's not that something that's happening overnight, and some of these organizations are let's say discouraged by seeing that they cannot build a community, gather people, but like, it's really a long-term effort. It's not just ad hoc issue. So Evie, Evie is asking how we can fight fake profiles that puts fake information in a digital campaign.
Yeah. Do you mean like the people comment on the campaign, but they're fake, so you can't really address it, or well,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I
Oh,
guess,
okay.
yeah, I guess it is like people who are just creating fake profiles and then commenting on posts, with some fake information, and here is Evie will add something. But yeah, it's something that at least in Balkans, it's happening quite often.
Yeah, okay, so I can show you something.
Yes, fake comments with fake information, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna show you my screen again real quickly. So what I do, because we have people that always, they have stuff that they always write about just to like destroy our campaigns, just to bash us and spread negative things. So in order to not spend all day just looking at the comments, hiding them, I actually go to on Facebook on settings and then page moderation. And then here you can actually add a lot of words. So I have like all dirty Swedish words and like fake news and stuff. And I just put them in there. And then every time someone comments on our posts with these words, it's automatically hidden. But it's not deleted. So it's just hidden. And in that way, the the person that wrote it can see the comment, but nobody else. So the person that wrote the comment thinks that it's still there, but it's not because it's hidden. And why I use this instead of just deleting the comments is because I've actually noticed over the years that if you delete something, it usually pisses these fake accounts off. So they just write even more negative stuff from more different accounts. But if you leave it there but just hide the comment, they think it's all good. So that's basically how we work with it.
So, but it's also, we can say normal in your country that in Sweden that you have this kind of issue, people making fake profiles during campaigns or like within
and like writing hurtful things and racist things and but always like from fake accounts. So it's really hard. Like you can't go with it to the police if it's a threat because it's a fake account. We don't know who it is. But it's we have that here as well.
Yeah, you have thank you from Evie.
Yeah,
for this answer. So yeah, some kind of your general advice is hiding instead of deleting, and of course, probably I don't know. I know that many organizations are falling into this trap to try to answer these kind of negative comments, and then
we don't actually answer if it's just negative comments and we see that it's not a real person behind it. It's a fake account. We don't answer. But if it's a legit question, if somebody has a question, but it's a real person, it's a real account, then we answer it. But if it's just hurtful comments and negative comments and they're just trying to destroy our campaign, then we hide it.
Yeah. And also, question from my side. I think that it will be quite beneficial for all participants. How you try to present, if you like, advocating or promoting some of your policies, and you would like to reach, some kind of general audience with this campaign, with this policy. What kind of content you are creating? Are you just to try to put this kind of dry information like statistics, some wording from policy, or you're trying to create some personal stories, like how this policy will touch people?
I try to work more with like finding a connection between our policies and like a regular person in Sweden. How is our policy connected to this person's life? But in a general way, because we have healthcare policies that, of course, not everybody in Sweden agrees on, but we found something that is common for everyone, and it's that they're not happy with the healthcare system as it is today, because it's unjust and unequal, and it depends where you live if it's a good healthcare system or not. So what we're hitting at is that healthcare, it affects everyone, and even if you're not personally affected by the way it is today, maybe your neighbor is, maybe your friend is, maybe your children are, maybe your parents are, if you have old parents, So we try to find something personal and more try to connect with the audience at an emotional level more than at a logical level. Because if you just present like logical facts, it's not that interesting and it's not that engaging. But if you try and hit it from an emotional point of view, then people are it's more likely that people are going to read your post, that maybe they're going to click on the link, they're going to get more engaged. So I'd say, like, whatever you do, just try and keep it personal and emotional, and use a lot of pictures. But if you have to present statistics, do it in a fun way, like do it in a video or something. Don't just write the numbers in a Facebook post, because that usually doesn't work.
Yeah, through animations, through infographics. Nowadays, there
Yeah,
are a lot of free tools online that can be used for this kind of to create this kind of content.
yeah.
Yeah. So, boys and girls, any more questions at this point? Oh, Evie. Evie's the most active person today. I don't know in Sweden, Yasmina, but in Balkans, at least in Serbia, is like 40 degrees. It's really really warm.
Oh, it's not that warm here.
Lucky you, lucky you.
No, lucky you. It's almost July. It's still kind of winter.
Oh, I would really. It's Sweden is not just about the economic standard. It's also about the weather. I like, you know. No, really. Yeah, so we're waiting for to Evie to pose the question. How do you find populist comments and arguments in social media?
Well, yeah, that's a big problem. Like that's an issue because that's it's so easy for people to just take the populist story and go with that. So actually, before we post something, we kind of try and bash it ourselves and like, how can we, like, what are people going to react on with this post? So we just try to think ahead and then like write it in a way so it seems that we've already taken this into consideration, or just like be plain and simple with oh yeah, we know that this is the populist way, but and then present our thing. um, I think that, well, that's the same way if the comments are just too populist and it's not really about our policy, we don't address it. We don't answer it because we don't want to give it more life. So I think that's that. But it's very different. I'm sorry, it's hard to answer because it's different from day to day, and I mean it depends on what policy we're talking about or what the comment is about and all that.
I think
Is it
that
a good enough answer?
I think it's like a big problem in politics of today that how to deal with populism in general. You know, it's not about all about social media, but yet it also can be done through social media. But how to, I mean, it's partly connected to this problem of crisis of democracy that we are facing today.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we kind of try to explain like the democratic views, but sometimes it's just if the comments are too way too populistic, then we just I mean we kind of sometimes we answer it, but in a harsh tone just to end it, like we don't care. Like we can basically say that, like we don't care because that's not even an issue. That's just like a shallow populistic thought. That's not what we're talking about. So please keep the conversation about this topic, or we're gonna block you.
Thanks. And Dimitar is asking, do you think that we should include personal, emotional message in the political post? It's a better way to touch the public, but does it sincere and acceptable to us as a political youth organization? Interesting question.
Yeah, I think because I mean at the end of the day, we're all in it because we're all in politics because we want to change something. We want to make we believe that our views, our political policies are going to make the society a better place for the people. So, I mean, we're all doing it for a good cause. Like, this is what we really believe in. So, I think I don't think it's wrong to include emotional messaging in it because it's just, I think it's still sincere, but I think it's just important that you kind of connect with people, because we have to keep in mind that normal people or like the general public, they're not that into politics as we are. So they won't really understand our policies if we just publish it as it is, as we talk about it. We have to talk about it on a level so that people understand. So maybe someone, when I present a policy in the typical political way, people are just hearing, oh, okay, they want me to pay more taxes. But if I present it in a way, in an emotional way, maybe they're going to think, oh, okay, so I can actually contribute to a better society. So it's more like that. Is that answer to your question? Okay.
You got a smile from Dimitar.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question, both Evie and Dimitar. Anyone else, or Yasmina, you should have something else to share with us?
No, not at the moment. Just a general tip, like, it's the internet, so people are always going to hate everything. No matter what you do, they're going to hate it. But don't let that, I mean, it's the way it is. But don't let that hold you back. I think it's really important that you have the courage to try new stuff. And if it doesn't go well, okay, it's the internet. You can just change it. I mean, it's not a printed paper, so you can just change it. And just like, you have to try.
Yeah, I mean, there was something that I would call over-optimism about internet in the context of mobilizing people, but definitely nowadays with these powerful communication tools in our pockets, smartphones, you have like a really unbelievable opportunity for communication that we didn't have before, didn't have in 2000s, and it's in my opinion, at least, it's all about how we'll use it, in which way, and will you try to, if we talk about youth organizations, will you try to build enough capacities and skills within the organization to use this opportunity effectively? At the end of the day, that's the main question. Will you invest resources to build the capacities for these new opportunities?
We're actually doing like a major investment in a new digital platform.
Really?
Yeah. Just because, our audience is pretty young, and I mean, kids these days, they have like their phone is their prime source of information. So
exactly. Yeah.
So we have to be there. Like we have to be the first ones to send our message. We can't wait for a newspaper to pick up an opinion piece and print it, and like we have to be the ones to distribute our own message. So we're actually trying to, because we have elections coming up next year in September 2018. So we're going to try and mobilize as much as we can digitally, but then use the information about our members and people to connect them locally.
So yeah, I think that one of the questions from the first webinar was about the importance of offline communication, as we call it today. So practically you're saying that you're using digital communication to connect people to communicate also offline?
Yeah, so we're using digital communication just to get people together, but then the actual campaigning is done offline, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't matter what I do on social media. If I don't have activity, if I don't have political activity in my movement, like in small places in Sweden, like if actual people aren't engaged, then it doesn't matter what I do on social media, because then we're not going to get any votes, because it's still like the offline people, they still have to go and vote offline. So we have to activate them offline as well. But the digital is just a tool in organizing it. It's so much easier to organize a protest or a campaign or something if you communicate online. But then still, at the end of the day, you have to go outside and protest. You have to actually go somewhere to make that vote, and you have to be engaged offline as well.
Yeah, so practically this will be your, I believe, your final message, that you cannot rely only on internet to promote policies, to talk with people online, that this, as we can call it, old way of campaigning, or like traditional way of campaigning, it's not necessary, but it's something that cannot be forgotten.
Yeah, exactly.
So Evie is typing something. We'll wait for him to see what does he. Is there any question or comment? But yes, I mean, this was the question from the first webinar about going directly, talking to people. Something that it's really, probably the very essence of each campaign, that you need to talk to real people. In person and alive, not just relying on this powerful, as you said, like now we have really good opportunity for communication and for organizing, but we should not forget that direct contact is really necessary.
Exactly.
So waiting for Evie. Do you agree that protests in streets are losing its means because the internet is making the people react more quickly and directly? Oh.
No, I don't think it's losing its means. I think, well, the internet, you can use it to like collect names and make a protest list that way. But I think actually that's just one step. Like that's basically the easiest step you can take. I think that there's something in that atmosphere when you see protest in the street, or when you see a demonstration for something. It's something about people coming together, and that's difficult to have online. So I mean, you can see a bunch of names on a list, and yeah, that's really good, but you still need to see actual people. So I'm not sure that it's losing its means. I just think that people are maybe getting like lazier, because they feel that, oh, but I can just click like on this and then I've done my part for the society, instead of actually going outside and showing someone that what they want, and that they demand change or something like that.
So-called Clicktivism.
I'm sorry?
So-called Clicktivism.
Yeah.
That it's enough to click on something that you fulfill your civic responsibility or civic duty. Let's wait for Evie. Oh, thank you. You got another smile. This is even bigger. So Yasmina, thank you very much. We came to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for this really interesting presentation. So don't be worried. We will contact you again, as we'll be doing this again, probably next year or even this year. And I just can say that when we were talking about putting the words for the automatic hiding of comments on Facebook,
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that I'm not sure in Balkan context that we can put all bad words, you know, because in our language we have them so much. I don't know,
Yeah.
will Facebook algorithm will succeed to work after that. Yeah, but really, thank you very much. This was so interesting, and surely we will be in touch. Dear participants, thank also for your time. I know that it's not maybe the best time for webinars. It's 6 in the afternoon, and tomorrow I would like to remind you that tomorrow we have the last webinar. It will be in not in 6 p.m. It will be at 4 p.m. Tomorrow. So 4 p.m. Dr. Mario Voigt from CDU. From CDU and from, I guess, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, I can say. We'll talk about determining social media channels, audiences, and key communication messages. I think that I met Mario 10 years ago, and I didn't see him for a quite while, and I really can highly recommend this the last tomorrow webinar to you. And after that, as all of you know, we will meet again in and not again, but for the very first time in person in Ohrid, at Ohrid Lake. So this will be a great opportunity to go even deeper in some topics, and always the live work, the offline work, the offline world. It's much better for discussing some issues, and again for learning in general. So I would like to thank you for the term Clicktivism. It's Clicktivism. Actually, I will write it down. Clicktivism. So it's yeah, when you're trying to, with K, when you're trying to solve the all world problems by clicking and liking at the Facebook. Again, Yasmina, thank you very much. This was really great, great webinar, and thank all of you, and most of you I will see in 2 weeks, of course. Thank you very much again, and stay in touch.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yasmina, just one thing at the end. We recorded this webinar. Is it okay to you to share it with other participants that couldn't be with us today?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It's
and
okay.
I will
Yeah.
send you the link as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye to
Okay.
all.
Bye.
Bye, cheers.